What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Run Peer Sports MMA show. We've got a fantastic card on tap. UFC 259, one of the best cards I can ever remember seeing. I'm your host today, of course, Draftcheat, joined today by Joey Werk and Titletown. Guys, you got to be excited for this one. Joey, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Not feeling the best, but I had to be here at UFC 259, big ass card. It's only the third 15-fight card in UFC history and the first with multiple 5-round fights scheduled. So I'm ready to go.
Yeah, 3 title fights, as you mentioned, 15 fights, which is just insane. Hopefully we get to keep them all, or at least keep all the title fights. We know, obviously, with the COVID stuff, sometimes we've seen cancellations, sometimes late cancellations, certainly from a DFS perspective. We're hoping not to see any of that. If you're new to this show, please hit that like, hit that subscribe. Allows us to bring you free UFC shows and, of course, all other sports. We've got free content almost every day up on this channel. Joey will be doing a lot of the betting analysis, and my friend here, Titletown, more of the DFS stuff. Title, how you doing today, man?
Oh, it's hard not to be excited for this one. Woke up, awesome mood. 15-fight card, like you said, top to bottom. We got some killers on this card. Very fun fights in the prelims too. We got people I see on the main events. We got people on both sides of it too, all across the industry. So doesn't seem like too much of a consensus on most of them. So It's going to be a ton of fun. I expect ownership to be really spread out. We got a big prize pool on DraftKings. It's just going to be an awesome day.
Yeah, it almost feels like kind of like Super Bowl Sunday to me, where no NBA on the slate for me, so it's just going to be all fighting all day long. Making some good food, doing some drinking, and just enjoying these fights, because it's going to be just a really, really fun day. Even if your bets or your DFS lineups don't go your way, just watching these fights is going to be absolutely fantastic. With that, we better get into breaking down these fights. We will go by the DraftKings order of fights. If you open up their app or their website, you'll see them kind of listed in order. So we'll go at least pretty close to what they have listed first. We'll break them all down from a DFS and betting perspective. Of course, the fights do get better as we go along. So if you're watching this after it's live, maybe if you want, you can, of course, jump toward the main events if that's what interests you. Let's go to the first fight of the night. Should be a decent one here, I think, to kick us off. Trevin Jones, Mario Batista. Batista, pretty decent favorite here, seeing him around -230 to -240. He's been pretty damn good, frankly, in the UFC. A very active fighter, high output. His only loss, I think he's 8-1 as a pro, was to Corey Sandhagen, and we've seen how good Sandhagen has been. So really not much of a mark against him, especially in this level of fight. Trevin Jones just nowhere near the level that Sandhagen is. So yeah, I kind of like Batista here to kick this one off. I think his output will be Trevin Jones. I think he can probably beat Trevin Jones most places. Joey, I see you nodding your head. You agree with me on probably Batista taking this one over Jones to kick us off?
Yeah, I do. We go back to Trevin's, his first fight in the UFC versus Timur Valiev. Basically, it's been overturned as a no contest because he tested positive for weed. Womp womp. But he was getting beat up basically for 8.5 minutes in that fight. Luckily, the ref never stopped it, and then Timur gassed, and he finished him in the third. He did take the fight on 2 days' notice, so take it with a grain of salt. But he has a lot of power. He likes to throw leg kicks, but his output isn't always there. His wrestling defense is in question. As for Batista, he hasn't fought in over a year. It was a flying knee win over Miles Johns. He's a pretty good UFC fighter. As you mentioned, his one loss was to Corey Sandhagen, but if you go back and watch that fight, he knocked down Sandhagen in that fight. Eventually, he got caught in the third via an armbar. Both these guys like to throw knees up the middle, but end of the day, I think Batista probably uses his wrestling here and takes him down to the ground, possibly gets a finish on the ground, because I don't think Trevin's a big guy, and I don't think Mario really wants to stand and bang with him the whole time. So I would imagine he tries to get it to the ground and find a way to finish there.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good breakdown of how this fight will go. Batista coming in at $9,100 on DraftKings, so one of the more expensive fighters on the slate. He has had some pretty high output fights. He did win his last fight in the second round. Didn't throw a ton there, a little bit inactive through 2 rounds. Fight before that, though, landed 179 strikes and a 3-round decision win. Title, any interest in paying up this $9,100 tag for Batista, or perhaps If you think Jones has a chance, maybe you'd go for the underdog there.
Yeah, I expect this to be a high-paced fight, a lot of output. So I have interest in both guys. I'm with you guys both. I lean Batista. He's I think the minus 250 favorite's about right. So the price tag's right. But I'll make a case for Jones first. I mean, he's 7,100 on DraftKings. He's $8 on FanDuel, which is the stone minimum. And I like fighters like Nunez, Adesanya.
Yeah.
I mean, the top tier is just completely loaded today, where on FanDuel, especially, a lot of the strategy sometimes just punt one completely, hope for a floor. If Batista goes for takedowns, Trevin Jones might be able to fight some of them off. And then you get takedown defenses, which is really big on FanDuel. So I have more interest on Trevin Jones on FanDuel because of that. If he makes it 3 rounds, high output, he has a solid floor for the price tag. And if he gets the win, like Trevin Jones, if he can keep it on the feet, he is live in this fight. He will get better as the fight goes on. I expect Batista to slow down if it gets to the 3rd round. He took this fight from Randy Costa. So Trevin Jones at a full camp. But I do like Batista's 9,100 price tag too, because he's a better fighter all around in every area. In the 1st and 2nd round, I do expect him to have his way, and he could get a finish in the 1st or 2nd. And if he does, 9,100, he's really going to score well. He's not going to be too overly owned because of the 5-round main event studs, other good studs. So this is a fight I have interest in, high-paced fight to start it off, and I think the winner is going to score well for their price tag. So I have interest in both guys, but I do think Batista does get the win.
That's 3 for 3 on Batista. He is obviously a decent favorite, so perhaps no surprise there. Joey, do you expect this fight to go the distance? It is favored about minus 150 to go to decision, or do you see perhaps a finish for Batista here?
I probably lean finish here.
Okay.
Even if Batista loses the fight, more than likely he'll probably get knocked out. So I probably lean, the under, that somebody gets finished in this fight.
Sure, yeah, you can get fight doesn't go to decision for around plus 125 if that's something you're interested in as a bet. We'll move on to the next fight of the night, which is Alon Cruz and Uros Medic. Medic, not super experienced, but undefeated overall, so that always catches your interest at least a little bit. I wasn't overly impressed, frankly, by the tape that I watched on him. He's certainly a talented dude. Obviously, all these guys are. But yeah, we'll see. Kind of, for me, a little bit of a hard fight to be confident in. We do see Medic about a minus 175 favorite in this one. Does that seem right to you, Joey?
Probably not. I mean, these are some big boys, though. Don't get me wrong; they're both 6 feet tall for the weight class. They're really big. I guess you could call them exciting prospects. Medic, if you look at his fight history, it's definitely in question. He used to fight in Alaska FC, and the level of competition over there, not very good.
Most UFC fighters are going to run through that competition in the regional Alaska scene, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Even the low-level guys, which more than likely he probably is, But he's only going to get better, His wrestling and grappling, nothing to write home about. Alon Cruz, as we saw in his last fight, his ceiling's not that high, I don't think. He lost to Spike Carlisle, who's already been cut by the UFC. Now was Spike's only win in the UFC.
Yeah, Spike is bad. Yeah. That loss is kind of a blemish on his record for sure.
Yeah. He does have huge reach because he's 6 foot. He has decent wrestling, although, he doesn't throw much output. So I could see him trying to test Medic's wrestling and guard and winning this in a really boring fight. But with 15 fights on his card, I'm off this one.
Perhaps a fight to make a beer on if you need to do that, at least in my opinion. I'm not super excited about this one. Title, Medic Cruz, you have a strong take here. I don't really, this is just one I just don't know exactly what's going to happen, and I'm not super interested in it from a DFS or betting perspective.
So for DFS, I am interested in it because it's minus 215 to finish inside the distance. So Vegas and the bookmakers think so. Medic's 8,900. He's minus 110 to finish, whereas Cruz is 7,300 and plus 390. So they're expecting a finish. The prices are fine. I think Medic does try and push the pace a little bit and force Cruz to throw more output and not make it as boring. I'm a little more hesitant. I'll probably pull a little more ownership off because of what you and Joey said, but it's still hard to ignore these Vegas lines of really expecting this fight to finish inside the distance. And if it does, if Cruz finishes it at $7,310, I mean, he's one of the best bets to be on the optimal at that price as a dog. And Medic, I mean, these are 2 big boys. Like like Joey Werk was saying, Medic definitely has the power to finish this fight in any round. And if he gets it done in the first round, 8,900, he's definitely, it's going to be a very good score. So I do have I do have interest in both of these guys in this fight, mainly just due to not thinking they're both very good prospects or big future, but in this fight, I expect one of them to go to sleep.
That makes sense. Title, more of a DFS question. Have you noticed, like, what I was going to say was that you might get lower ownership on these guys kind of because people don't really know who they are. Do you think that affects ownership, or are most people, kind of looking at some of the obvious things like you mentioned, Vegas expects it to be finished inside of the distance. You're looking at output and Vegas odds. Do you think, the relative fame, if you will, of the fighters affects ownership much?
Well, today I think a lot of people, because we're going to have tons of new people coming in from all the sports, and
Sure.
People are just going to target, I think, the 5-round fights mainly, the Izzies, the Jans, all of that. So I think the ownership is concentrated more so up top today in those fights. So
Yeah.
I think this fight does go under owned for what
Same.
it should for the ceiling.
Sure.
But I think a lot of people also do look at, on a normal card or normal MMA, people look at a lot of Vegas stuff, output stuff like that dictates ownership. But today's card is so loaded and 15 fights and so many ways to go. Ownership's not like, we're not going to see people in the 50%. Yeah, Nunez might be and stuff like that, but ownership's going to be relatively spread out and lower owned. So I think like the optimal, there's not going to be too many ties. Like there's not going to be a 150-way tie or something like that, because there's so many combinations. So I'm not worried about ownership too much. I think it's going to go mainly though to the 5-round fights, and fights like these will be under owned.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think, in general, of course, favoring the 5-round fights is in general a strategy that works in these contests. You're right, though. I mean, each additional fight on the card makes ties much less likely, right? So for like the big DraftKings tournament, which, by the way, these DraftKings tournaments are filling up in a hurry. So if you want to get in some of this stuff, maybe do so now before it all fills up. Yeah, with that, we'll keep it moving. Before we do a couple promotional things, of course, we've been kind of crushing it over here at Run Pure Sports, if I'll say so. So we are doing a little sign-up drive right now. You can use promo code FREETICKET, all one word, to sign up for Run Pure Premium. Of course, we do have free shows every day, but also a lot of good stuff behind the paywall. So please, if you use promo code FREETICKET, you will get entry into an all-member drawing for a $600 DraftKings entry on Wednesday when the NBA returns from the All-Star break, obviously on break till then. But yeah, promo code FREETICKET will get you into that drawing. All right, let's keep it moving to another women's fight, I believe here. Yeah, the 13th or the third card on this fight. This is another one. I think this card really kind of picks up for me after this fight, but we'll talk about this one first. Amanda Lemos and Lavinia Souza. Lemos, a pretty big -200 to -220 favorite. I personally think she takes this one, but perhaps in somewhat of a less exciting fashion. Joey, are you more interested in this fight than I am? Because I don't know. It's just hard to get up for this one for me.
Probably not. Lehman's open -140. Now she's all the way up to almost 250 in places. I mean, I guess if you got on early, I would go for it. But now -250, I mean, I can't lay -250, especially in a women's MMA fight. And more than likely is going to go to the distance. These two are both BJJ black belts. Another thing is Souza could potentially get a takedown and keep her down for the whole fight. We haven't really seen Lehman's on her back at all in the UFC. The Brazilian gangster, she continues to move forward. She tries to close the distance by using her leg kicks, and she has powerful boxing, but she's slow and doesn't throw much volume. Lehman's has a lot of success boxing, including on her back foot and counter punching. She definitely likes to wrestle. More than likely, this going to decision, as I mentioned, and 15 fights on this card. I'm just leaving this one be.
I'm with you. Title, any different take on this one?
This is the fight to go to the bathroom, get your food. This is the one fight that I'm okay missing. DFS wise, I mean, I have no interest. There's so many killers on this fight, on this card. This is an easy fade for me.
Yeah, we're all in the same boat with this one. So we'll keep it moving. Obviously, 12 more fights to talk about. Good one to catch up, save some time, and get to, I think, some more exciting fights, including the next one. Two kind of guys that have been really successful recently, Jake Matthews and Sean Brady, who I believe is undefeated as a fighter. I kind of see this as two wrestlers going at it, but sometimes when that happens, both guys are kind of fearing the other's takedowns, and you see a stand-up battle. I think that at least is in play here. We'll see. We do see Brady as a decent favorite, minus 220-ish on this one. Again, both guys really like to wrestle and have had a lot of success, especially recently. So, yeah, I'm really interested, Joey, to hear your take on this one. I don't know. This one is a tough one for me to kind of call. It is favored to go to decision between two wrestlers, about a minus 160 to minus 180 to go the full 3 rounds. So perhaps one from maybe a DFS perspective that could be less appealing. Joey, how do you see this one going down between Brady and Matthews?
Yeah, so Brady from Philly, he's on a 17-fight win streak. That includes his amateur fights. He's 13-0 as a pro. He's really good at jiu-jitsu. He's probably better everywhere, maybe, except for his level of competition he's fought.
Sure.
He throws a ton of volume, has better cardio, that's for sure. But, this will be his 4th UFC fight, and only the last one did he finish. I know he finished Christian Aguilera in the 2nd round, last fight out. But before that, he fought Court McGee, who's nothing special, that's for damn sure, and went to decision with him. So, Jake, I think we've seen him slow down a lot recently. He went to decision in 5 of his last 6 wins. He's a good striker, nothing really that stands out. He's a decent wrestler and has good jiu-jitsu as well. But I really think this is Brady's fight to lose. More than likely, it goes all 3 rounds, as neither guy's really a finisher. So I definitely lean Jake, but at the odds, I'll probably just stay away.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So we've seen Brady win all 3 fights in the UFC, and Jake Matthews on a 3-fight win streak himself, but against kind of the bottom of the 170-pound division. Last win over Diego Sanchez, who, in my opinion, really shouldn't be fighting anymore, especially in the UFC. So
you could probably beat Diego Sanchez, bro.
Let's not get carried away here. Maybe if I was coming off a siege training camp, perhaps.
If he's hopped up on some drugs, go in there, bro. You can get him once and get him down.
This is officially not a Diego Sanchez call out, so don't quote me on this one. Title: Jake Matthews and Sean Brady. Your take here.
Well, I did see when I woke up, he's fighting Cowboy Cerrone, right? I think I saw that like an hour ago. I thought I saw like 42 or an hour ago when I woke up that it was announced.
I missed that if that's what happened.
No, Diego Sanchez and Cowboy Cerrone. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that'll be a retirement for it.
Yeah, so that's just funny. We're probably last time we'll see him out there. No, not this fight, but going to the Brady and Jake Matthews, I agree. I think Sean Brady's better in almost every aspect of this fight, but he's also 9,300, and I think this fight does go to decision. Jake Matthews, I think these guys are pretty much the same fighters, except Jake Matthews just a little step down in every aspect of it. So I think it goes to decision, though. I think Jake Matthews is tough enough. Sean Brady hasn't been a killer like we've talked about. So a decision win for Brady at 9,300. I don't see that being enough on this card. And the top tier's loaded, so I'm not going to have much at all. And then as far as Jake Matthews, his price is really cheap at $6,909. So I expect him to get some ownership because people are just going to look at the odds. You look at what it gets you. If you get 6,900, it opens your lineup completely. However, I don't think he gets this win. So I'm going to be underweight to Matthews because people are going to play him. I think he loses, but I can't full fade because even if he gets a decision win, that could be enough at 6,900 if all the other top tiers smash and it gets in Nunez and stuff like that. But I expect a decision. I think Brady's the better fighter and should get the win, but the price takes too much.
Yeah, I could see Brady. Sometimes we see these good wrestlers. I think Jake Matthews is a pretty good wrestler. When they get on their back, they have a little bit tough time getting up, right? Because they're not really used to fighting on their back. That's not their style that they're looking toward anyway. So, and then Sean Brady's got good jiu-jitsu too. So he could perhaps get a lot of control time here. I wouldn't be shocked if that was kind of how this fight goes down. But 9,300, man, that's a steep price to pay with some of the other guys that you can get for around that money. So he would need to fight a really, really effective, good fight, I think, to end up in the optimal DFS lineup. So probably a fade for me. And I could also see, just given the wrestling and jiu-jitsu prowess of these guys, a tentative fight where they're both kind of hesitant to throw because the other one's going to shoot for takedowns if they overcommit on the striking. So I could see kind of a general low output striking battle here, which obviously wouldn't be good for DFS purposes. We'll keep moving to, in my opinion, one of the more exciting fights on this slate, and I think a fight where we're probably going to see someone get knocked out, in my opinion. Should be a good one here. Carlos Ulberg, and we'll call him Kennedy N. None of us could quite figure out how to pronounce his last name. His nickname, you can call him either Kennedy N or the African Savage. If you see a picture of this guy, you understand the nickname. Two big light heavyweights here. Ulberg, I think they list him at 6'4", 6'5". Kennedy, maybe an inch taller. Two guys that like to strike. Carlos Ulberg trains with Israel Adesanya in New Zealand. They're the same size. Well, Ulberg's actually bigger than Adesanya for sure, but I assume they were kind of training partners throughout this camp, and getting to strike with Adesanya, for a couple months here, you'd assume would be good for Ulberg. He was a kickboxer. He's only had 3 professional fights, 2 recently. He was like the finalist to be on the New Zealand version of The Bachelor, but turned that down to kind of pursue this. So he's an impressive dude coming off a very violent knockout. And then Kennedy N looks like he's a striker too. So I think we're going to see these guys throw. I'm really excited for this one, and I'm guessing someone's going to sleep here. Ulberg, pretty big favorite, minus 200, 240 to minus 250. I assume he's going to be one of the more popular plays on this slate, and in my opinion, for good reason. Joey, Ulberg and Kennedy N. Who you got here?
Yeah, I really like Ulberg. He's City Kickboxing, as you mentioned. This is one of 3 City Kickboxers on this fight card. He has very good striking, and he has that killer instinct. His kickboxing really good. He holds a serious advantage on the feet in this matchup. He should throw a ton of fakes, which I think will lead to success on the feet. He doesn't throw crazy amount of output, but I think it should be enough. Kennedy, he hasn't fought in over a year and a half, and that was a split decision win over Darko Stotosik, in which he kicked him in the nuts a couple times. That probably helped him get the victory, but it is what it is. Past that, he lost to Paul Craig, who, if you follow UFC, the Bear Jew is his nickname. He's not the best of fighters.
Right.
He does, Kennedy has a lot of power, but doesn't throw much output either. So he needs to connect on that one big punch, and I really just don't see it happening here. I think, a lot of people are like, oh, I think the only way, I think Ulberg will win via KO, or this is going to be a boring fight, and these guys are going to, feel each other out for a round and a half.
Yeah, I kind of expect Ulberg to be patient in this one. That just kind of seems like more of his fighting style. I mean, Israel obviously has had some spectacular knockouts, but he's also a guy that generally starts a little bit slow, right? And I kind of think Ulberg is going to be that type of fighter. Again, we don't have very much tape on him. This is just his 4th professional fight. So, and he's finished some fights quickly, but that seems to be his approach. And especially against a guy like Kennedy, who obviously has huge power himself, I could see a little bit of a low output, but I do think Ulberg could finish this one. He is plus 120 to win by KO or TKO. I kind of like that bet. And then I especially like, I don't even have the odds here, but maybe Ulberg to win this one like in the 2nd round, right? He starts out a little bit patient. He's still going to have all his power. He's a former professional rugby player, so you got to assume his cardio and everything's going to be good. So I'm guessing you can get that, 2nd round KO win plus 500, plus 600, something like that. Seems like a pretty good bet there. Title, Ulberg and Kennedy N. I assume you've got some interest in Ulberg here.
Yeah, I see it exactly how you guys do. Ulberg, I think he has a massive advantage on the feet. His kickboxing is very, very good.
I feel really good about Ulberg in this fight, frankly.
Yeah.
The
only thing, like you guys were saying, is Kennedy doesn't throw a lot of output.
Sure.
I mean, but he does carry a lot of power, and Ulberg knows that. Kennedy has one knockout punch power. So if he gets caught, he doesn't want to go storming in, make it too aggressive, a firefight, because that's the way he loses it. If he keeps it at distance, throws the feints, he can eventually get the finish. But if it's a 3rd round finish and there wasn't too much volume thrown in the 1st and 2nd round, I don't think 9,000 is enough to pay it off. However, he has 1st round finishing upside. The guy's this good. So if he comes out, starts piecing him up early, gets a late 1st round finish, he's absolutely going to smash his price tag for 9,000. So I'm going to have interest for sure. I'm going to be a little overweight on the field. I don't expect him to be too crazy owned because, again, the upper tier is just so loaded with Izzy, with Nunez, with other killers up top. So but you need to get some. This guy should win. Alberg should win. I don't have too much interest in Kennedy, just a small piece because he's live for a knockout at any time for the price tag, but he's not going to get there in volume. I don't see him winning a decision at all. So Olberg's my pick as well. I like the price tag. He has upside for it, but definitely be cautious with just a lot of feints, standing on the feet. Olberg getting the best of the exchanges, but if it goes a decision for Olberg, I don't think it's going to be too big of a score.
Yeah, this is another one where I think UFC kind of lined this one up for Olberg to win. I think they want Olberg to win this one, get him in there against another big dude who likes to strike, let him show off his kickboxing prowess. We're all in agreement on this one. It just lines up for a big Olberg performance, and I'll be surprised if he doesn't get his hand raised in this one. And I think inside the distance, probably in the first couple of rounds. Let's go to Tim Elliott and who's Elliott fighting?
Jordan Espinosa.
Yeah, Jordan Espinosa. Pretty much a pick'em fight here. We see basically even odds for both of these guys. These guys are, in my opinion, kind of bottom rung UFC guys a little bit, or at least, they're grinders, right? They've been in the UFC a long time, kind of up and down, win, loss. I'll just throw it right to you, Joey. I don't know what's going to happen in this one. It's going to be kind of a scrappy fight, if you will. There'll be some volume thrown. I mean, these guys, both smaller dudes who do like to get after it, but I'll be surprised if we get a finish. And I don't know. I just not able to predict who's going to win this one. Do you have a strong take on Elliott and Espinosa?
Yeah, so this line opened at Elliott minus 150, and now, as you said, it's almost a pick 'em. So money has came in on Jordan Espinosa. Tim is a vet in this game. He's always fun to watch. He looked good at weigh-ins. Overall, he's skilled in a lot of MMA phases. His wrestling is really good. He averages about 4 takedowns per 15 minutes. His jiu-jitsu is solid. He loves to throw plenty of kicks. Espinosa, he's lost 3 of his last 4. 2 were via finish. He is known for his good wrestling as well. So both these guys are really good wrestlers. He has decent takedown defense. But I can see Elliott having some success on the ground if he gets it there. Espinosa has been submitted 4 times. He should be the faster striker, Espinosa, on the feet. Maybe throw more volume, but I see Tim moving in and out, probably, using his weird movement to stay away from Espinosa and possibly getting this to the ground and winning via sub. So you can get Elliott plus 450 to win via sub. So I'm going to throw a couple shekels on that.
I like it. Yeah, writing that one down. I'll be hitting that after the show for sure. DFS-wise, title, both these guys kind of in that mid-range, as you might expect for a fight that's basically a pick-em. Elliott coming in 8,200, Espinosa 8K. I would kind of imagine these guys are going to be low-owned. I think most people are going to go with kind of a stars and scrubs approach to this card, which I do agree is probably the way to go. Any interest in either of these fighters at that 8K price tag?
Yeah, anytime Tim Elliott's on the card, I have interest just because he's so relentless. He loves to try and chain takedowns. So, I mean, he scores really well. Anytime a fight gets on the mat, on the feet, mixes it up, it scores well. And I agree with Joey. I think there's a clear path to victory for both guys. If Elliott can get it on the ground, I think he has his way, scores well, and I think he can do it by sub too. He has a good submission game. I always love James Krause in the corner of anyone, so I give a big boost to Elliott there. It's hard to get out of my head his fight against Brandon Royval, where he just absolutely gassed after the first round and then got submitted by him. But we know how good Brandon Royval is. So it's easy. He looked better last time out about it, but the cardio still is a little concern. But for Espinosa, if he can stuff the takedowns, keep it on the feet, he's definitely a better striker than Elliott. Elliott's very wonky, weird movements, but he doesn't throw a lot of power or have a lot of power behind the shots at all. Espinosa is a lot more and can piece him up there. I expect this to be a fun, high-paced fight that scores well in the mid-tier. So I have interest in both guys, but I do lean Elliott because he has a higher ceiling if he can get it to the ground, and his submission is very live. Very glad Joey Werk said that too. So this is a fun fight, good price tags, and I have interest in both guys, and I lean Elliott.
Yeah, I like that submission plus 450 call for Elliott. Makes a lot of sense there. We'll keep going to the next fight before we do again, just some promotional stuff. Free ticket, promo code free ticket to get the Run Peer premium package, everything under one roof, betting, DFS, Discord, all that good stuff. I see the likes and viewers climbing. Again, if you're in here enjoying the show, please hit the like button. It does allow us to bring you these free shows pretty much 7 days a week. And we have a deal with Monkey Knife Fight running right now. You can use promo code RUNPURE, all one word, to get a free match on your first deposit up to $50. Let's go to the next fight of the night, Kai Kara France and Rogeria Bontoren. France, a small favorite here. I believe, yeah, minus 130-ish for him. He's a very active fighter. I've always liked Kai Kara France a little bit. I'm interested in him here. I think he can win this one. I'm a little bit surprised he's not a bigger favorite. I certainly capped Kara France as a bigger favorite when I broke down the film on these two guys. Joey, I see you nodding a little bit. Seems like you might be leaning Kara France with me.
Oh, yeah. So this is another city kickboxer, Kai Kara France, second of the third with Izzy as the last one. He gets back in here after, he lost to Brandon Royval via sub. But as Title said in the last one, Brandon Royval is a good fighter. He has a massive striking and output advantage here. He lands almost 6 significant strikes per minute, and he has pretty good defensive wrestling.
90% takedown defense rate for France. Those numbers can be a little bit misleading, but that's a pretty impressive number for a guy who's fought a number of times in the UFC.
Absolutely. I think he has the better fight IQ, and he's definitely fought the better strength of schedule. Bontoren hasn't fought in over a year. He's been recovering from an ankle injury that actually made him pull out from his last fight. His wrestling's all right. He has very good jiu-jitsu. He's a decent at boxing, but he's really, going to bank on his wrestling in this fight. I fully expect him to try to get this fight to the ground and try to repeat what Brandon Royval did to Kai Kara France. But if Bontoren can't get this fight to the ground, he stands no chance on the feet with Kai Kara France. So I think, he might get a takedown, maybe 2 at most, but Kai Kara is going to get back up, and he's just going to beat him up on the feet. Probably be a decision win, but I'm on Kai Kara France, money line minus 130.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, we're going to mention, but the city kickboxing thing, I mean, these guys are going to be ready for this one. Kai Kara France is going to be game to fight. He's going to show up. He's not going to, lay an egg, if you will. Like maybe he gets beat, but he'll have to get beat. He's not going to beat himself or show up out of shape or anything like that. So I like Kara France here. Like you mentioned, a very high output guy, over 5 strikes landed per minute, can certainly get there on volume if he can't finish the fight. And the great takedown defense. I mean, why, Joey, do you think he's only a minus 130 favorite here? It's a little bit weird for me. I guess he's coming off a loss, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's got to be the recency bias. And, that fight was, a lot of people watched that fight. Pretty sure that was a pay-per-view fight. Okay. So people probably saw that. They see, Bontoren at 16-2. I mean, he lost to Ray Borg last time out, who's been a vet in the game, but he does nothing spectacular, And then he pulled out of the last fight versus Kate because his ankle still hurts. I think, it's people must just be like overlooking this fight, or is it just a recency bias?
Yeah, I'm with you. Glad to hear you're with me on Kara France, because that line confused me a little bit. Title, your thoughts on Kai Kara France and Bontoren?
Yeah, I'm with you guys too. I think Kai Kara France is better all around. Should get the win, but I think it's going to be via decision. Bontoren's pretty tough. And at 8,500 via decision, I would rather go the winner of Elliott or Espinosa. There's other fights. I mean, Peter Yan and Sterling is 8,400, 7,800. There's just other guys that in the price range that have, or Rakic Santos is 8,600, 7,600. So it's just the price point, and I think it's going to be via decision, where I don't think he lands up in the optimal. So I'm not going to have a lot of them, but I do think he wins the decision. And then as far as Bontoren, I expect him to be more popular than Kara France. He's plus 260 to finish this fight. He's a small dog. He's only 7,700. So I expect a lot of people to look at those numbers and for him to be overowned. So I'm going to be underweight on him because I think Kara France wins and is better. But I'm going to get a little bit because he does have finishing upside in this fight if he can get it to the ground. And if he finishes at 7,700, he's going to put up a good score. But I do think he goes over-owned as one of the dogs people like and gravitate to. So it's a fight that I'm going to be underweight on and hoping and expecting a Kai Kara France decision win.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed, because especially on a card like this where you do need to find some savings, these slight underdogs, right? Bontoren coming in around plus 120, you can get him under 8K. They typically go pretty high owned. People are just like, oh, he's got a chance. I'll roster him. So I'm with you. I do think we'll see Rogeria a little bit over-owned in this one. Let's go to another interesting fight here. Askarov and Joseph Benavidez. Benavidez coming off of two, frankly, pretty devastating losses to Figueiredo. The question here for me, I mean, I think, Benavidez wasn't too long ago. He was considered kind of up there a little bit in the pound for pound rankings even. Is he washed? I think that's kind of the question for me. I would lean no. Figueiredo just is a monster in this division to me. I was on bet Figueiredo both fights against Benavidez. Just at this point, just a different caliber of athlete, I think, than Benavidez is, and it was just too much for him to overcome. But a much easier matchup here. Not that Askarov is some scrub, but he's just not even close to the level that we saw Figueiredo at. And Benavidez, I think he might have been favored in that first fight, and then wasn't even a huge dog in the second. Joey, I kind of think Benavidez can pull off the slight upset here, coming in around plus 115 against Askarov.
Yeah, I'm on Joey B. Azkar, he was the only person to miss weight. He didn't look very good on the scale. He looked weak. Personally, I think this is really a great matchup for Benavidez. I know he took 2 beatings versus Deiveson Figueiredo, but most people would, So past that, I'm not really sure, if he's got past it on the mental side. I think
that's the question that we just don't know, right?
Exactly. I think Joe B is the faster fighter. He throws more volume, and if this fight stays standing, I definitely like him to win. He moves in and out. Askar is a good counter puncher, but and his power is good, but I think he's slow for a flyweight. He probably can take him down, but will he keep Joey B down? Probably not.
Right.
Joey's known for that damn scrambling. I'm not really impressed with Askarov in the UFC to date. He's been taken down in every single one of his fights. He fought Brandon Moreno. He lost that fight. Shitty judging for sure. I think one of the judges gave the fight to Moreno in all 3 rounds in that fight.
Yeah.
Then he got his back taken in the 2 previous fights, versus Tim Elliott and Alexander Pantoja. So, he's had shitty performance in almost all of the last 3 of his fights, So you go back to Joey B, as you're talking about, the underdog. Out of his 21 UFC fights, he was the underdog in 3 of them only. The first time he fought Demetrius, or the second time he fought Demetrius Johnson, and his last 2 fights with Deiveson Figueiredo. So, you're giving me Joey B at plus 115, and he's been an underdog for, 3 out of 21 fights. Give me the dog, give me Joey B, and give me Megan Levy here at plus 115. I'll take the package deal.
I'm with you. I'm with you on Joey B. I'm kind of surprised he's a dog here. I think people are just kind of assuming he's done after seeing him. I wouldn't say he got dominated in the first one. There was kind of like a weird head clash, right? That kind of seemed to stagger him. Second one was rough for Joey B, and he just can't compete with Deiveson Figueiredo. But nobody really has proven that they can. So I do expect to bounce back. Again, we don't know what the mental state of Joey B is here, but assuming he's in a good state, and I think he probably is, but didn't take that much time off after that loss to Figueiredo, wanted to get back in there. I'm expecting him to bounce back and look pretty good here. Do you have a different take on the situation, Title?
So I don't feel as strongly as you guys do about it for the DFS wise. For betting wise,
Sure,
I would definitely lean with Joey B as the dog too, just because the recency bias of losing to Fig is just so good and in his own tier. There's no shame in losing to him twice, especially one being via headbutt and stuff. The competition now with Askarov is way worse than Fig. So I think Joey B has success on the feet. He is quicker on the feet. Askarov probably wants to try and get this fight to the ground, but Joey B's takedown defense is one of the best we've seen in the UFC. So I don't expect Askarov to get it down there. I think Askarov does stand a chance on the feet. I expect him to both be trading in the pocket, having some fun. For DFS, it's both in the mid-tier, though, and I don't have too strong of a lean, so I lean the dog. I'm going to have more Joey B because he's 7,900, get the 400 price decrease. But in a decision win, it might not be enough on this card. It might be a 75, 80-point win, and I don't think that's enough on this 15-fight card.
Probably not.
But but Joey B does have finishing upside, and I think Askarov has finishing upside too. We just saw Joey B get finished twice in his last 2 fights, so the chin, we don't know about the chin yet. A little question marks. So I'll have interest in both guys. I'll probably be close to the field on them though, because this is one of the fights that is very hard for me to break down, and they have upside, but they also could, in a decision, it could be a 70, 75 pointer where you don't want either of them. So it's going to be one I mainly hover around the field with, since I have stands on most of the other ones, but I like the Joey B call.
Yeah, it sounds like all three of us are kind of leaning, maybe betting Joey B and Kara France, but perhaps not the most exposure in DFS, and maybe a little parlay. Kara France, Benavidez, both to win by decision. I could see that being a fun little two-legger there. We'll keep going. 7 more fights to talk about, obviously, on this huge card, and we'll spend kind of some more time on some of these as we go along. Next one, I think is going to be a pretty interesting one. Kyler Phillips and Song Yudong. Both guys have had a lot of success in the UFC recently. Kyler Phillips, 3-0, has been able to control his fights via wrestling, has really outstruck his opponents considerably in all 3 fights. Looks pretty good to me, and so does Song Yudong, who's got some pretty good power. More of a stand-up striker, so I think this is a little bit of a matchup of styles. Can Kyler Phillips get this one to the mat? I think he'll be looking to do that. But yeah, I've been impressed by both guys. I expect a good match here, and this is another one where I don't mind taking the dog here. Kyler Phillips coming in around plus 140. I think he's got a good chance to perhaps get this one to the mat. Joey, your thoughts on Phillips and Yudong?
Yeah, so Yudong has won all 6 of the UFC fights, but the last 2 were quite questionable, versus Marlon Vera and Cody Stamann. He did win most of the exchanges on the feet, but, Stamann took him down 5 times. Stamann's definitely an impressive wrestler. Do I think Kyler is as good on the ground and will have that much success? Probably not. Kyler throws more volume. He is a BJJ black belt. He loves his leg and calf kicks. Sometimes he does slow down later in the fights. As Yudong, he throws heavy shots, definitely has more power. He's very accurate and has pretty good cardio. Overall, I do think Yudong is probably the better fighter. The more than likely win via probably decision, But I said on these shows multiple times, I don't like the back favorites that really, don't have crazy finishing upside, especially at minus 200 phase. So I'm just off this fight.
Yeah. I certainly leaning Phillips to win this one via decision is kind of my favorite bet here. I just think he's got a decent chance to control this one. Yudong, I'm not sure, how good he is, if he's going to be able to get off his back. I just worried a little bit about that for Yudong, and I think Phillips, he's, like you said, a high output guy, a lot of energy, and I think he can win this one. I'm a little bit surprised he's as big of an underdog as he is, and title it, if you like Phillips like I do, 7,400 on DraftKings. I think he's one of the, got one of the better chances to pull this upset. He's cheap enough. He could get some control time. He does throw strikes at a pretty high volume, both on the feet and when he's got top control. So I kind of like him to perhaps, if he's able to do what I think he can do, kind of sneak his way into the optimal lineup, perhaps.
Yep. I like Kyler Phillips, especially because the prices, if you look at the odds and price, Yudong opened up as like a minus 190 favorite. Now it's down to about minus 150, and DraftKings comes out with prices early. So Song Yudong's 8,800, Kyler Phillips is 7,400. The ownership's definitely going to have more on Kyler Phillips, but it's hard to argue that. Everyone knows I'm a big calf kick guy, and Kyler Phillips checks that box. So I have a lot of interest there. He can take it to the ground and have success, which scores well for the new scoring when it's on the ground. 7,400. I expect him to be like one more of the popular dogs, though. Like I said,
I would think so. Yep, for sure.
So it's not like I want to go 50% on Kyler Phillips or something, because Song Yudong is a very good fighter. He keeps us on the feet. He does have a lot of power. I'm a little worried about Kyler Phillips' calf kicks and then the counter up the middle from Yudong with a lot of power that can absolutely sleep Kyler Phillips at any time. So 8,800. Nobody's really going to play him because he doesn't throw the most volume. He's only a minus 150 favorite for a top tier fighter, but he has power to finish this fight.
He's got knockout power in this one. I think I'm with you. I think he's got a chance for sure.
Yeah, at any time. So if he gets it done in the first round at 8,800, a 10% owned fighter or whatever he is has a good chance of being on the optimal. So I think it's a great leverage play. If you're only playing a couple lineups, I don't recommend it because it's very risky. The floor is a lot lower. I do lean Kyler Phillips as the dog for the price, but it makes for a very interesting low-owned GPP play because Song Yudong, he's only 23 years old, good cardio, or better cardio than Phillips, has a lot of power in his hands. So It's a very fun fight. I'm very excited for it, but Kyler Phillips for the price is definitely where I lean.
Yeah, I'm with you. Definitely like Phillips in this one at that underdog and low DraftKings price. We'll keep going. Featured prelim here, Casey Kenny and Dominic Cruz. I guess you could say some similarities between Cruz and Benavidez, two great kind of former champions who are seem to be at least kind of on the back half of their career. Cruz came back from a long absence last time out and got beat by Henry Cejudo, who I think then retired. So hard to hold it too much against him, but that was his first fight in what, 3.5, 4 years. He looked okay. Cruz, though, has had just a ton of injuries and surgeries over the course of his career. Claims he's healthy. It's hard to know. Obviously, we don't really have the details on that. He is a slight dog here to Casey Kenny, who I think is a pretty good fighter. I don't know. I'm actually kind of, after being in on Joey B, the odds are basically the same for both of them, plus 120 to plus 125. I'm more convinced that Dominic Cruz is kind of done than Joey B is. So I kind of like Kenny here. I'm kind of on the opposite sides of these two fights. Joey, your thoughts on Cruz and Kenny?
Yeah, so Deron Wynn, who's another UFC fighter, asked me on Twitter earlier in the week if I remembered who Dom was. And then he proceeded to tell me he's betting on him. So, but I just thought that was funny. Onto the fight.
Name dropping over there. I like
it. Dom's last win was in 2016, which is 5 years ago. He's a really good wrestler. Don't get me wrong, offensively and defensively. He has great footwork, always moving in and out. The way really he fought in the UFC really drew me towards the UFC, the way he fights. Casey has looked really good in the UFC, and especially recently, he is a very skilled wrestler. He throws combinations on the feet. He has solid power and always moves forward. He also throws a lot of leg kicks. I see the longer this fight goes, the better Dom has. But,
Sure.
Dom has a great gas tank, but he hasn't fought a 3-round fight since 2014. So that might be a disadvantage here. He could take the first round off. He's used to taking a round or two off in these 5-round fights. But you can't do that in a 3-round fight. He might, I expect him to start slow in round 1, and then he just really has to start pushing the pace in 2 and 3 because you can't really take him off in 3-round fights. I'm with you here, though. I definitely lean Casey Kenny, but overall, I'm probably just going to watch and enjoy.
Makes sense. Yeah, I did listen to a couple of interviews with Dominic Cruz. Take this for what it is, a little trip down narrative street, if you will. But he just seems like he's just kind of complaining a lot, making a lot of excuses about his last fight camp. I think he requested that Keith Peterson not be able to ref this fight.
He did, yeah.
Peterson, I think he responded on Twitter and said he doesn't he doesn't referee undercard fights.
That's a parody account.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Fell for the parody. That's my bad. But kind of funny there anyway. But I don't know. It just seemed like Cruz is maybe not in the best spot or mentally for this one. So I'm taking Kenny as the slight favorite, and I wouldn't be surprised if he finished this one. If Cruz is, I don't think he's total dust, but I do have my doubts about his fighting prowess right now. It's just been so long since we've seen a good performance out of him. Title, your thoughts on Cruz and Kenny?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Casey Kenny is a very good fighter. Just had an awesome fight against Nathaniel Wood, who's another very good fighter. I think Nathaniel Wood would beat Dominic Cruz. I think Casey Kenny's going to beat him. Has way more power on the feet, throws good volume. And Joey Werk said it best. If this was a 5-round fight, I'd be a little more skeptical because Casey Kenny has shown to slow down a little in the third. And then if you go in the 4th and 5th against Dominic Cruz, where he's still throwing volume in your face, it gets concerning. But I don't think Casey Kenny loses the first 2 rounds. And Dominic Cruz is not going to finish Casey Kenny. That's probably the most safe thing I can say on this card. But Casey Kenny's just very good in the pocket, very good boxing, throws good kicks. I can see him getting a late finish in this fight too, or a 2nd-round finish or something. Yep. Cruz is past his prime, 35 years old. I don't see it anymore. I think they're both priced 8,100 on DraftKings. Casey Kenny's 17 on FanDuel, whereas Dominic Cruz is 14. I just lean Casey Kenny in this fight. I'm not even going to play any Dominic Cruz, which is going to be a little risky because we know he has volume. We know if it gets a decision, it could score okay. I just feel very good about Casey Kenny in the spot. He is a very good fighter.
Yeah, I kind of see Cruz's his fire kind of waning a little bit. Maybe Kenny can put it out completely. Let's get to the main card, and man, I'm excited for all 5 of these fights. Going to be an awesome pay-per-view card, of course. Kicking us off, just a great light heavyweight bout here. Thiago Santos and Alexander Rakic, 2 really good strikers, powerful guys. Santos coming off a couple of losses, of course, but to the very top of the light heavyweight division, John Jones, Glover Teixeira. Went the distance with Jones. I guess we've kind of seen that a lot. And he actually beat Blachowicz a while ago too. So yeah, Thiago Santos, I know coming off 2 losses, but I don't think he's anywhere near done. Really impressive athlete. Rakic, a very good fighter in his own right, and a guy that's certainly scored well on DFS when he's been out there. Rakic, a decent favorite here, minus 160-ish. Should be a good card to kick off this pay-per-view. Joey, I'll throw it to you for your thoughts on Santos and Rakic.
Yeah, so the big boys, Thiago's back in after that disappointing loss to Glover, where Glover basically, controlled him via takedowns. He was coming off all those injuries from the John Jones fight. It is what it is. Rakic, he's probably a striker, but he has a very good ground game. He may resort to using his grappling and try to mimic what Glover did and get this fight to the ground. Thiago's throwing bombs on the feet. He mixes up his stances, but I'm just not sure how long it's going to stay there. I think if he starts clipping him, Rakic will probably try to get it to the ground. Rakic's, he's getting better and better. He has great fighting IQ. I think he uses this here. I think he's going to be smart and he'll get this fight to the ground. And once Thiago's not very good on the ground, as we've seen, I definitely don't see Thiago. I mean, if they stand and bang, maybe Thiago can win minutes, but I think the only way he wins is via KO. So I'm off this fight with a lean towards Rakic, but if you want to have a little fun here and a little Rakic by submission plus 1,200.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Title. So this one, kind of expected to be finished. Under 2.5 rounds is minus 150. Goes to decision is plus 155. So, Vegas is expecting a finish here. Who do you like in this one? And do you think it's a good fight to target for DFS purposes?
Yeah, this is definitely a good fight to target for DFS. 8,600 for Rakic, 7,600 for Santos. So Santos, if he wins, it's going to be via KO. He throws monster power in his hands. He dropped Glover in the 3rd round and got on top, made the mistake of trying to grapple with them or use his wrestling, and you just don't do that. That's when you send Glover back up to the feet and do it again. But he has so much power. But Rakic is just so much more athletic, can take it to the ground. He just has way more paths to victory. And he can stand and bang with Santos too, but I agree that I don't think that's his best path to victory. I just think his athleticism takes over in this fight. Very good fight IQ, like Joey said. He can win it in anywhere, way more paths to victory. And I think Santos will be higher owned because he is 1,000 price difference. He has the most upside for any dog on this card. So I'm definitely going to have some of him because he's very live for a finish with the power in his hands. But Rakic is a very athletic, good up and coming fighter, and I lead him in this fight. So I like his price at 8,600.
Yeah, I think you can play either of these guys. Rakic certainly in play at that price point, like you mentioned. And Santos, I don't mind having a piece of this fight in either direction. I personally could see it going either way, but with you guys both leaning Rakic, I'll take heed there because this was one I wasn't quite sure of headed into this show. Let's go to the second pay-per-view fight. Interesting one here. Drew Dober and Islam Makhachev, who's been, a lot of hype behind him. You certainly see that reflected in the odds. Makhachev 18-1 as a pro. Does he train with Habib? I think kind of that style of fighter. Really good takedowns. And Vegas certainly expecting him to control this one with top control. You see that climbing even higher now. It's a little bit surprising to me, but you see Makhachev all the way up at minus 400 to minus 450, depending on where you look. I love Drew Dober. I bet on him the last 3 fights. He's looked awesome to me. He's in a good, got a good camp out here in Denver. And he's going to know what Makhachev wants to do. Obviously this is a little bit, against the consensus, but I don't know. I'll take Dober as a plus 350-ish dog. Yes, he could get controlled for 3 rounds. But I think he'll have a good plan, and I've been really impressed with him recently. I think he's making a lot of good strides as a fighter. So, Joey, does Dober have a chance here, or am I crazy?
I mean, I definitely agree with you. I think the value is on Drew Dober. Minus 450 for Makhachev is crazy.
It's too much for me, but
this line should be much closer. Islam hasn't fought since September 2019. You know, he's a very good wrestler, impressive striker. He probably moves better. I think is better on the feet, but sometimes he gets crazy with his striking. He leaves his chin up, hands down. You know, Dober could pose some problems here. He's very
good. We've seen Dober finish fights early. I mean, he's got power for sure.
Yeah, he has very good stand-up. He's a very good boxer, hits hard, great timing. He likes to use his wrestling, and he has good takedown defense. So Makhachev minus 450, that is crazy. He hasn't fought anybody of name in the UFC. So I think it's dog or pass for me here. I definitely see value on Drew Dober. But end of the day, Islam probably wins via decision. But I'm just going to stay away from this one, enjoy it, but I would not, be against taking and betting on Drew Dober.
Yeah, it's not that, I don't think Dober should be favored. I think Islam rightly the favorite here. It's just the line is too big for me. I do think there's value on Drew Dober, and I'm going to be taking a piece of that for sure. Title, your thoughts on Dober and Islam here?
Yeah, I'm glad you guys said this, because the first time I looked at this card last week and the prices after last week's card ended, I was like, how is Drew Dober plus 275 dog? Or like that? This Drew Dober is a very good fighter, has very good boxing, is tough, and it makes it look like he's just a bum for the odds that they give him.
Yeah.
That shows how much respect that bookmakers and people are giving Makhachev. I've seen talks all week. This guy's might be a better wrestler than Khabib, all this stuff. I mean, that's a very, very bold statement. So I'm very excited to watch this fight. I'll get a little Makhachev on DraftKings because I expect him to try and take this fight to the ground, get a lot of control time, which scores well with the new scoring. But Drew Dober at 6,800, I'm going to have some pieces there too. If he gets the win, he has power to finish it and actually break the slate if he can keep it on the feet. He's just a good fighter. He has a decent floor. And on both sides, on FanDuel, he can get some takedown defenses too, which scores well. I agree, Matt. Makhachev should be a favorite. I'm probably like minus 260 or something. I'd cap it at. So I don't think Dober wins this fight like 4 out of 10 times or something, but he's definitely live. It's going to be a fun fight. I'm not going to have too much interest in DFS though, just because I think Makhachev does win, but 9,400. I mean, that's 200 more than Izzy, 200 less than Nunez. And I mean, there's other killers up there that we talked about earlier. So I think Islam is going to win this fight, but I'm going to have more Dober than I will him just because of the price. But I'm definitely excited to watch this fight with all the hype that he's getting. So I'm really excited to see what he brings to the table. Khabib's in the corner, which is always fun too.
Yep. Yeah. One interesting note here, we're getting Dober around plus 300 to plus 350. And then if you look, I'm thinking if he wins, it's probably going to be because he is able to keep it standing, wins via KO or TKO. And that's kind of how Vegas sees it too, because you're only getting, plus 500 to plus 550 to win via KO, TKO. So not that much different than the actual line to win the fight. So a couple things there. One, I'm not, I would just bet Dober to win at that point. I would, if it's only plus 350 to plus 550, that's not enough of a increase in odds. But it does also say that, Vegas kind of sees if Dober wins this, probably going to be, inside the distance via a knockout, which if that happens at 6,800 on DraftKings, you're going to want him in your lineup. So I do like Dober at 6,800 from a DFS perspective. I'm hoping he goes a little bit low owned, and I'll continue to back my boy Drew Dober. He's looked really good recently, and I just haven't seen enough yet from Islam to be this big of a favorite. So I'll be rooting for Dober for sure in this second pay-per-view fight of the night. Let's get to the 3 main title fights. Looking forward to all of them for different reasons. First one, Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan. This one should be fantastic. I know, Joey, we talked a little bit pre-show. Peter Yan obviously has looked very good, but if you look at kind of his strength of schedule, not all that strong for a championship belt holder, right? He did beat Jose Aldo in the last fight, but Aldo had some success early on, just wore out like we see Aldo often do. And then Aljamain Sterling's been really impressive coming off a submission win over Corey Sandhagen, who since then has been just fantastic. Basically a pick 'em here, which is always kind of fun for a title fight. Which way do you lean, Joey, on this one?
Yeah, so, Aljo throws a lot of volume, but he doesn't have crazy power. His ground game, pace, and cardio will show he's the better fighter here. He's always moving, switching stances. He's a very good wrestler, and I expect him to throw his legs as well. I mean, Jan has basically handpicked his opponents in the UFC to date. All of them are boxers or stand-up fighters. If you go back to the Aldo fight, his old ass made Jan give him a little bit of fits.
Yep.
Aldo, and then in the late rounds, Aldo literally just stood there, and they were just throwing hands. Like, both of them just standing there taking punches and throwing punches. Guess what? That's not going to
even moving his feet at all.
No. Guess what? That's not going to happen with Aljamain Sterling. I'm sorry. Yeah. Like, he'll continue to move around and make it hard for you to hit him. And if he's getting hit, he'll try to get the fight to the ground, which more than likely he'll have success with. Aljo's last loss came in 2017, a knee from Marlon Moraes. Honestly, I'm throwing that out. He got clipped, got KO'd, wrong place, wrong time. It is what it is. Past that, he hasn't lost a round in the judges' scorecard since 2017 in his 5 total fights. Jan has a good gas tank, probably better on the feet, but I really see Aljo getting this fight to the ground early and having success there. I'm all over Aljo, plus 115, got that a couple days ago, and gave that out to our Rump Your Bet subscribers.
Yeah. What do you – I mean, we haven't really seen Jan have to – fight off his back at all, or I assume his jiu-jitsu is unimpressive, right? To me, he's like almost like a pure boxer, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think he has decent wrestling, which we'll definitely find out, but it's not Aljamain Sterling. It's not on his level.
Yeah, I think Aljamain Sterling's striking is good enough that he should be able to kind of set up a takedown here, and we'll see. I mean, that's kind of what I'm banking on. I certainly like Sterling at that basically even price point, like you mentioned, and then you can get Sterling, plus 350 to plus 400 to win this fight via submission. I think he'll be trying to do it, frankly. I think he'll have opportunities to do so. We've seen him do it against some pretty good fighters in the past. Sandhagen, I would assume, is much better fighting on the ground than Jan ever would be. So, yeah, I do like Sterling here. I lean him. Title Sterling or Jan for this one.
I don't like disagreeing with both of you, but I mean,
right, here we go.
This is such a close fight. I mean, I don't have a strong lean on Jan. Joey having a strong lean on Sterling is a little concerning, but so I think Jan's the much better striker on the feet, holds a lot more power. And I like I think his athleticism, it will help him a lot with his takedown defense. We've seen anytime someone tries to shoot, he drops his hips, he moves very well. I think he's going to be very cautious with the takedowns. And if he can keep this on the feet, I expect him to have his way with Sterling. So maybe I'm a little lower on Sterling striking than that. But the thing, like you guys said, it might only take one takedown from Sterling to finish this fight, which is my concern. Sterling's that good on the ground where if he gets it there, I'm definitely concerned. So I'm more so betting on Jan being cautious, dropping his hips, using his athleticism, keeping it on the feet. And I like his striking a lot more than Sterling's there. But why I like Jan a lot more too for DFS is he's 600 more than Sterling is. So he's 8,400, Sterling 7,800. I expect Sterling to get more ownership, a good amount more ownership.
For sure. I've seen no doubt about it.
Yep. The public, I've seen a lot of people on Sterling too. So I think Jan comes in at maybe 10% lower owned. I'm not exactly sure, but I think the leverage in GPPs, and I think he keeps it on the feet, has the upside to finish. This is the one fight that I feel very good about, that the winner is going to be on the optimal, just because of the prices and the algorithm and how they do it. So I'll be 100% on this fight. The thing is, in cash games though, like it's hard. I can't go Jan over Sterling in cash games because that 600 price difference for a coin flip fight is just like, it ruins your whole lineup. 600, you need Nunez, you need Adesanya, you need stuff like that where you need to keep the 600 price decrease. So cash games, it's Sterling. Tournaments, I lean Jan because of the price difference, and I think he can't keep this fight on the feet. And his boxing is very, very good. Tons of power, can switch stances as well, as we saw last fight.
Yeah, interesting for DFS, like you mentioned, just too cheap for these guys for a 5-round fight. Both guys, pretty active. 8,400 for Jan, 7,800 for Sterling. I haven't built a cash game yet. I don't even think it'd be the craziest thing to play both of these guys in the same cash lineup because they both just seem like really good values. not really anticipating an early finish here. I think both guys will score pretty well in this one. So,
yeah, that's a very good point. Because I usually stack. I mean, I stack a lot in cash games too. This week, I'm not for sure gonna stack yet. Sterling is a core play for me in cash games, even though I don't have him winning. I mean, I don't know. I don't think like no one's feels very confident. I don't think maybe Joey does, but either way, I mean, this is such a close coin flip fight. These are the two of the best in the division. These are the best in my opinion. It can go so many ways. The floor is high in this fight, but I mean, you also want wins in cash games too that you can find. If you're playing both of them, you're sacrificing another mid-tier win with either Elliott or Joey B or something like that. So stacking gets a little tricky, but it's very, very live because the floor is high on this. If it goes to 5 rounds, they both should score very well. I expect a very fun fight.
Yeah, can't wait for this one. The co-main event here, Amanda Nunez and Megan Anderson. Amanda Nunez has just looked so good for a long time now. In my opinion, just kind of head and shoulders above any other women's fighter, and by far, at least in my opinion, the best women's fighter that we've ever seen fight. She does come in as a massive favorite here, sitting right around -1,000 as a 10-1 favorite over Megan Anderson, who's a good fighter, but I don't know. Amanda Nunez for me just on another level. Now I'm not laying the 10-1 on Nunez. No thanks on doing that, but I do expect her to control this fight kind of wherever she wants, basically. Probably finish it, although we've seen the last 2 Nunez fights go the distance, but she did dominate both of them. I don't know. I guess I don't really have any super hot takes here. Joey, do you feel any differently?
Yeah, I got a hot take.
All right.
All right. So, I mean, Amanda's the GOAT. We noticed. Does she probably win the fight? Yeah. But she's -1,000, as you mentioned. That's not even worth adding to a parlay. You know,
you're coming in with a Megan Anderson take. I like it.
Yeah. If they do 25 minutes of stand up, I think this is basically a coin flip fight. I mean, Amanda's probably the better boxer, but if Megan keeps it at distance, she can start picking her apart. She's the biggest fighter that Nunez has fought, both reach-wise and height-wise. You know, she joined Glory MMA and James Krause. If you've been following MMA, you know, this guy's been on fire. He's going to win Coach of the Year. So I went back and watched Megan Anderson versus Holly Holm. Holly Holm, known for her boxing. Megan was beating her up on the feet, picking her apart at range. Holly had the advantage in the clinch, gets a takedown. Round 2 and 3, more of the same. Megan looked good on the boxing exchanges. Holly eventually takes it to the ground and rides it out on the ground. I really think that's what plays out here. Amanda will probably take this fight to the ground. She'll have the cardio to take it 5 rounds. We know that. But for some reason, I don't see the full motivation here for Nunez either. She's raising a baby. She's got a family now. So I really like my official play here is over 1.5 rounds, -110. And everybody in the world is on Amanda Nunez. Give me the dog, Megan Anderson, plus 750.
Yeah. Interesting that you're on Anderson. I can't hate it. I think the motivation thing is a good point. You know, we saw Nunez retire. She's a huge favorite here. Possible we haven't really seen it from her recently, but possible she's taking this slightly. I will say from the weigh-in photos, the size difference between these two was pretty striking. Megan Anderson, you know, she's certainly impressive physically. By far the bigger fighter, the taller fighter. I think she's got 4 inches of height, 3 inches of reach. It looked like even more than that, frankly, when you saw these two kind of square off in the weigh-in photos. And like you mentioned, Anderson looking kind of better and better as her career progresses. Title, I assume we're going to get Amanda Nunez as the highest owned fighter on this slate at a 9,600. She's the most expensive, but as a -1,000 favorite, going to be tough for people to pass up. Certainly, if you take Anderson and she does pull the Joey Werk upset special, you're going to be sitting pretty because a lot of Amanda Nunez lineup's going to go down in flames.
So I like the confidence in Joey Werk, and on the betting side, it makes sense because like why a -1,000? There's literally no point of adding that on at all, and you're getting so much value with Megan Anderson. So betting side, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that's probably the sharp side. DFS, I just can't go against the GOAT in this one. I think Nunez has a lot of upside at 9,600 too. If she gets it on the mat, she's gonna get a lot of control time, ground and pound, 5-round fight. It can score well. I might need to change my fade stance to get a little bit of Megan Anderson, because if she wins this fight at 6,600, she's almost surely in the optimal. You can get all the other top tier pieces. So maybe I got to get a little bit. I'm also, even if Nunez does win this fight, there's anytime the highest fighter on the card is like 9,600, 200 more expensive than the next highest. Even if she scores the most on the card, it doesn't always work where she ends up on the optimal, because there might be a salary
just
where
depending on what else goes down, right? Yep.
Yeah, where you use all the salary and you couldn't get up to Nunez and other people score more. So it's definitely not a fight I'm going to have 100% to. I'm going to get plenty of Nunez because I do think she gets it done again. She has a ton of upside, which you've seen. She definitely is the safest on the card, a cash game lock for me with their huge favorite price tag. But maybe I got to dabble a little bit on Megan Anderson. I know Big T's in chat, absolutely loving Megan Anderson call from you, Joey. It's going to be a lot of fun, though. I can't go against the GOAT in this one, but betting terms, the value definitely has to be Megan. So I like it. It's going to be very fun to watch, though. And I'm even more excited now to watch how it all plays out.
Big T workbench fight of the night, Megan Anderson over Amanda Nunez. Not officially, but we'll make that call with Big T in chat there. Good time to remind you guys, please make sure you're subscribed to our channel. We've got tons of good content each and every day over here at Run Pure Sports. And if you want the premium package, bets, DFS, Discord, all that good stuff, you can sign up using promo code free ticket, all one word, that will get you into a drawing to win a $600 NBA ticket when the NBA returns on Wednesday. All right, let's get to the main event of the evening. Israel Adesanya making his light heavyweight debut against Jan Blachowicz. Really interesting fight, I think, from a number of perspectives here. Of course, I guess the biggest story, Adesanya going up to light heavyweight, weighed in, I believe, at 200.5 pounds. So you don't see that very often, right? I think he's would be the youngest or the lightest light heavyweight champion if he were able to pull this one off. He looked obviously fantastic against apparently a drunk Diego Costa in his last fight, who claimed he had to drink a bottle of wine to go to sleep. But anyway, Adesanya's just been super impressive. Blachowicz himself has looked really good recently, coming off two impressive wins in his last two, especially. Adesanya, pretty big favorite here, sitting right around minus 230. I don't know. I'm a little bit torn on this one. Blachowicz going to have 25, 30 pounds on him, maybe in the cage. 5 rounds. Adesanya, there's levels obviously to MMA fights, and Adesanya might just be on another level. I think you can make that case. But the size difference to me is not one to overlook. So, Joey, we'll throw it to your first thoughts on Blachowicz and Adesanya here.
Yeah, so, Izzy wanted a new task here to hold 2 belts at the same time. So, you got to appreciate that. He's beat everyone the UFC put in front of him. He's won all 9 of his UFC fights. He's going to use his quickness, athleticism to move in and out and all over the octagon. As for Jan, this is a guy you got to appreciate. He started his UFC career 2-4 overall, and he's 8-1 since that. He beat Dom Reyes, my boy Corey Anderson, Luke Rockhold, Nikita Krylov, Jimmy Manua, Jared Cannonier. Those are all big, bad boys, Jan is big, power, throws a lot of power. He likes throwing his leg kicks. But can he hit Izzy? That's what I'm not sure of. The dude barely gets hit versus old weight class. Now he's moving up versus bigger, slower guys, So Jan, he can connect on that one punch, one power knockout, but I don't see it happening. I think if Jan can get it to the ground, I do see him having an advantage there, but that's also going to be a struggle for him. So I think Izzy wins, maybe by knockout, but I'm leaning towards a decision win by Izzy.
That's kind of where I'm at too. I just think Izzy's going to be able to avoid the power of Jan. Izzy's just such a cerebral striker. I think he's still getting better. And I'm not worried about the size difference really at all on the feet, right? I guess Jan probably does have more knockout power, but Israel has obviously shown to be very, very difficult to hit, going to be faster, just such a smart fighter. So I'm with you, Izzy by decision, kind of my official call on this one. Title, your thoughts on Adesanya and Blachowicz?
Yeah, there's levels to this game, as you said. Izzy on the feet is just, he's unbelievable. Just such an art to watch. He's going to have a massive speed advantage in this fight. I wish it was in Abu Dhabi where it was a bigger cage. I think the smaller cage definitely does
Good
favor
point.
Jan a little bit, limits the moving. So that is something to look at. I already bet Izzy. I think the line is a little too small, actually. So I think there is some value on there. He's just so good on the feet. I expect him to pick him apart. I don't think Jan's able to touch him. Like Dominic Reyes last fight, that's a huge step up from going to Dominic Reyes to then Izzy. I do agree that the path to victory for Jan is to try and get this fight to the mat. He's going to be if he gets it on the mat, then the weight definitely concerns me. He's going to be way heavier on top. He has solid grappling, uses ground and pound, but I just don't think Izzy lets him get it there. He's so good at using his range, his technical striking. I feel very good about Izzy. I bet him, but it's not a fight that I'm going to be 100% in DFS because this fight could go to decision. I mean, Jan has very, very good chin, very tough guy. So it'd be a late finish, if anything, I think, from Izzy. But if it's a 5-round decision fight and we have guys earlier in the card like Olberg, like Medic, like Rakic and stuff that finish the fight in the first or second round, there's definitely paths to this fight not making the optimal. So I'm going to have a lot more Izzy. I'm going to have some Jan, though, because, I mean, he's 7,000. If he gets the win, I expect it to be a finish. And if he finishes at 7,000, he's going to score well. And then I'm going to have some full fight fades just because there's 3 5-round main events. I don't expect this to be a Izzy Romero fight where it's just 2 guys staring at each other and like that boring, which I've seen some people talk about. But you really never.
I think it could be that.
Yeah, you think? Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that. You think it could be that boring where they just stand at each other and watch and stare at each other?
My concern here, so Izzy is under, no, in my opinion, not much, if any, pressure to kind of finish this fight impressively. Like, he's moving up to light heavyweight, right? He'll be a double champ. He's weighed less than the max. Like, he's an undefeated fighter, right? So that's kind of enough. Coming off an extremely impressive win. So if we're right where Jan is just kind of too slow and can't touch Izzy, and maybe he can't get him to the ground, and he's getting hit hard every time he tries to pressure, we can see Izzy just kind of control the distance, right? I think we saw, to me, the most analogous fighter to Izzy is Anderson Silva, who we did see win many fights over the course of his career in kind of boring fashion, where his opponent just couldn't touch Anderson, and they just kind of gave up, and Anderson's like, all right, we'll just keep it a distance. I'll get out of this fight, not taking any damage. So I don't know. It wouldn't shock me if that's not what I necessarily think will happen, but I think everybody's going to want to roster Izzy. I get it, but I could see him, like you said, winning a decision here pretty easily and still not getting close to the optimal. Joey, it seemed like you were kind of maybe disagreeing with me on that take about this possibly being a little bit more of a boring fight.
No, I can see it, but I think if Izzy controls the pace, it could be boring. If Jan does, I think he's going to try to push it and get inside, get close, and that might lead to Izzy knocking him out. Because I don't think Jan wants to play the boring end.
That's what I expected.
Jan has to pressure him, right? And you don't want to, like, that's what Israel kind of wants. Like, he's just a fantastic, he's good at everything, but he's a fantastic counter striker. I think for me, kind of almost first and foremost. I mean, Israel, I've listened to some interviews with him. He was talking about, he's like, you haven't even seen some of the knockouts that I could be getting, knees up the middle, things like that. He's just obviously a tremendously creative striker too. So certainly if Jan is relentless in his pressure, that's his path to victory, right? Get this against the cage, maybe get him on the ground. But Israel, I think you kind of welcome that style of fight. So tough path to victory for Jan here. You can see it with the size difference, I think, but that could also lead to a lot of trouble. And sounds like, Joe, you don't think Jan will just kind of give up and accept defeat. He'll keep coming forward.
Absolutely, the Polish Hammer. Come on, man. He's turned his UFC career around. He's really a guy that I personally like to root for. Unless he's fighting my friends, which he did twice. But that's a guy that I kind of like to root for. But
sure.
This is gonna be exciting, really exciting. But I think Izzy probably just he's just the better, more skilled, faster. He's kickboxing phenom. I just think overall skill set is just better for Israel Adesanya.
Yeah, we all kind of, I think, kind of lean the same way on this one. Title, we'll throw it to you. We'll wrap the show up. Just your general kind of strategy thoughts on building lineups, which way you want to go, good fades, anything for the people before we get out of here.
Yeah, so what sticks out right away, Jan Sterling, because of the prices and how DraftKings does their algorithm. I'm going to have 100% exposure to that fight. That's the one fight I feel very confident that the winner lands in the optimal. Nunez, I'm going to have a lot of just because she has a very high ceiling. I expect her to win the fight, but I'm not going to be 100% to that fight just because I said about the prices. She's the most expensive. There's a path. I like Izzy a lot. I like Jan, but it's another fight that I'm not going to have 100% exposure because Izzy decision is definitely a possibility. And there's so many killers in the top that can get finishes that you need to mix them in too. For the dogs, I don't feel too comfortable or too confident with any of them in particular. So I'm going to be more mixing and matching just a bunch of them that have upside, like the Cruz. Trevin Jones is in a pretty high paced fight and cheap, so I'll have him. Tim Elliott, I like a lot in the mid tier. I like the mid tier with the Tim Elliott fight, with the Joey B fight. So, and then I'm going to avoid like the Sean Brady. I'm going to avoid Kai Kara France. I expect that to go to decision. If you're a favorite and I expect to go to decision, I don't think that's going to be enough today. So just picking mainly the fighters that I think have a very high finishing upside and targeting the 5-round fights, because those always, you have an extra 2 rounds to get there, but it's going to be a ton of fun. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait for this afternoon to get these fights started. Hopefully we get all 15 fights stay on the card. We shall see. Thanks for tuning in. As always, again, go sign up for Run Pure Sports Premium Package. Promo code free ticket gets you in a drawing for that $600 NBA ticket. That will do us. That will do it for us. Enjoy the fights, everybody. He's Joey. He's Title. I'm DC. And we'll check in next time.
Good luck, everybody.